Welcome in. My name is Brandy Dye, for those of you that don't know me. This is my channel, Exotic Lotus Alchemy. You guys can call me Mojo if you like. My mama called me Mojo. But that is what I choose and prefer to go by. It is my spirit name. So, I just wanted to start off this morning's video with a short disclaimer. For some of you guys that have been following me in this channel, the channel has been dormant for the last 4 years. The last video that I actually channeled here on YouTube was about sacred union, and I channeled that video 4 years ago, which at the time I did not know what I was really initiating or being initiated into, which here we are 4 years later. What happened 4 years ago after my last video was the greatest initiation of my life. And today we're going to talk about some of that, just a little bit. The greatest initiation into my life was into divine blueprinting. So through human design and gene keys, my whole world has completely changed. And so therefore the nature of my content here on this YouTube channel has also changed. I have been waiting for the right time to resurrect my YouTube channel, and considering how crazy the world of metaverse is getting, I was banned from my Facebook page for being able to do lives. So no time better than now to resurrect the YouTube channel for weekly videos relating to the codon mandala of the gene keys. And so every week I'll be discussing the activations on the codon mandala with the 64 gene keys. So with that being said, the nature of my content has changed. You will not see anything twin flame activated here. This is not a twin flame cult, okay? Whether I'm doing live gene key readings or activations, or where I just get on here and channel a spirit message, okay? So it could be a variety of different things that I will be sharing with you guys here on this channel, and with all good reason. Before long, this channel will actually be a part of an active podcast here on Exotic Lotus Alchemy, where I will be doing the podcast called Phone Calls with Mojo, where other enlightened souls doing whatever beautiful things that they are doing out here in the world. I would love to have them join me here on the channel and on the podcast to discuss live active time, ascension. So, and what's going on in the world, the current events, so I'm gonna have a lot of interesting people joining me before too long. So if you guys just be patient with me, the content here is only gonna get better and better. So that being said, today we're going to talk about Gene Key 6, which is the shadow of conflict, the gift of diplomacy, and the city of peace. So every human being is emotionally vulnerable until we drop our protective defenses and the defenses that form around our heart. So as long as our hearts remain defended and closed, they cannot heal. So this is a quote by Richard Rudd from 64 Ways. 64 Ways is one of the Gene Key books that can be purchased to study further about the Gene Keys, just for future reference. And then there's also the book by Richard Rudd called The Gene Keys, which is kind of like a human Bible, and it's better than the Bible, actually. So if you guys were ever interested in the Keys of Enoch at all, which the Keys of Enoch book now on eBay and Amazon is now ranging between $500 and $700 for those of you that are esoteric, history buffs, or if you guys like to study ancient or occult, studies. The Keys of Enoch book has become quite expensive. So my go-to to tie in the keys of Enoch to actual human design and blueprinting is this book right here. So this book is about $45 on Amazon, and it's definitely worth it if you guys are diving into the self. Okay. So for the last several days, from the 14th until today, we have the Gene Key 6 being activated right now in the Codon Ring of Alchemy. And for those of you that do not know what the Codon Rings of Revelation are, Richard Rudd explains them on the Gene Keys website. So on the genekeys.com website, not only can you go in and run like a free chart generator for your Gene Keys, which is called the Golden Path. There's an option there that if you guys wanted to look into your Gene Keys and see what's going on there in your divine blueprint aspects of DNA, your shadows, your gift, and your city, those are all three aspects of what we call alchemy. In the Hindu culture, those three stages of alchemy would be referred to as tamas, rajas, and sattva. Okay, and for alchemists that actually study the Hermetics, you have also the Latin words for the microcosms, the macrocosms, and the first logos, which is the Godhead. So when I refer to those things, those are the things that I mean when we talk about the Trinity of human design, or when we talk about the Trinity of the blueprint. So everybody has a shadow, everybody has the gift frequency, and everybody has the city frequency. And so through these activations, we can actually learn how to merge the unconscious aspects of the shadow frequencies, the gift frequencies, and the sattva frequencies, which are the city. And so this is how alchemy actually happens, through our channels. Okay, so each one of us have different gates, channels, gene keys, etc., things that tie into astrology. Okay, so this would tie in your original natal blueprints. Okay, so those of you that don't understand, this is a combination of your natal blueprint, your I Ching, which everybody is a part of, the elements, and also the Codon Rings of Revelation, which are in relation to the 22 major arcanum, or the 22 natural cosmic laws. Okay, so for those of you that are different culturally, for the cultural difference or belief systems, this actually ties in all things together, between the elements, the stars, the blueprints, the planets, all of the elements, etc. In this Gene Key, in this activation this week, today is the last day, so I needed to get this video out as soon as possible while we're still in the activation. And so right now we're dealing with the Gene Key overall, in its retrospect, is called the Path to Peace. So in this transmutation, the conflict shadows with the programming partner of Gene Key 36, with the shadow of turbulence, is coexisting right now in the energy of the sign of Virgo. So here we have the mutable Earth, which ties into this Gene Key and its programming partner, Gene Key 36. It creates the victim of emotions. And so when we're in a reactive or a repressive nature, the over-attentiveness of the repressive nature, or the tactless reaction within the reactive state of the shadows of this Gene Key, we're talking about the channel of fruitfulness. And so with gates 6 and 59, you have the channel of fruitfulness, and then you have to contend with that, the victim of your own emotions. And so this is where it's really important, where we realize where our time and our energy through our emotional state of being actually plays a very huge part in transmuting and transcending the conflict and the turbulence of these shadows and these Gene Keys. So to talk about the shadow of conflict, where this relates to is actually the battle of the sexes. And so when we're going into the state of the gift of diplomacy, this is about being able to drop our defenses and build the body of glory through the city of peace. And so this is where we actually slow down and really take a good deep dive look at our reactive and our repressive natures. So when it comes to Gene Key 6, the shadow of conflict is the single most influential gene key in regard to the issue of human communication. And so at its highest potential, the 6th gene key is the archetype of peace on earth. Whilst at its lowest potential, it's the root cause of all human conflict. This conflict stems from the human emotional system and our inability to handle the voltage of extreme emotional states. So conflict breaks out whether 2 or more people agree to identify with their emotional state, and as long as you surrender your will to the emotional system, then you'll be trapped by its volatile nature. So within the human body, the 6th shadow relates to the pH level of your blood, and its job is to maintain an optimum balance of acidity and alkalinity so that your cells can thrive. So as a metaphor, on a wider scale, we can see that the 6th shadow is about the loss of this balance in the world at large. In particular, it's about the imbalance between male and female, and over time has given rise to the notion of the battle of the sexes. This battle or conflict is not just about men and women. You know, it's not just about men and women. It's about energy. It's about the balance of all polarities. Religion, science, east and west, rich and poor. The world itself has its own kind of pH level, and wherever its imbalanced conflict arises or ensues. In the same way that the overbalance of the acidic body issue becomes an environment for viruses and cancers to thrive. So do social imbalances result in upheaval, corruption, and at their worst, war. The 6th shadow can be interpreted individually through relationships or collectively through communities, and at an individual level, this shadow manifests through the emotional state. If you've ever been emotionally repressed through shame or guilt or abuse, the entire culture within your being has been disturbed. So likewise, if you're utterly ruled by your emotions, there can be no sense of harmony inside you. It is well known how much your emotional state influences your biological health. So if you're stressed emotionally, your body will suffer. Emotional problems are the greatest cause of illnesses on our planet. In the 36th shadow of turbulence, the programming partner of this 6th shadow reinforces this fact. The 36th shadow conditions you to be nervous when you feel uncertain or insecure about anything in life. It is the nervousness that form the background frequency of our whole planet. So if you think about the nerves, the nervous system, the spinal cord, and the fact that your entire spine is what we call the Seshuma highway, or in other words, the spiritual highway, okay, at which all of your chakras are aligned with your spinal cord. And this is also where we carry all the pain, all the fear, all of the gridlocked experiences of the worst kind through human nature that is passed on through us through the blood. It's passed on through our mothers, through the womb cord. It's passed on through the genetics. It's passed on through every aspect on a metaphysical level, on a timeline level from time to time, like from the spans of time and the origins of your bloodline. Okay, so for most of you guys that are already familiar with having to clear out bloodline contracts of ancestral karma, you guys would definitely understand the nature of this gene key and its programming partner, the 36th. So when we're talking about the background frequency of our whole fucking planet, okay, the biofeedback loop that between the 2 shadows of the 6th and the 36th gene keys are actually making us nervous and feeding these responses through making us behave defensively. So when these 2 gene keys are acting together, it's going to target our insecurities. Those insecurities are going to come up to be processed, actually. So when we do have a bout of energy that makes us feel uncomfortable or makes us want to actually tuck our tails between our legs and run for the hills, or being an avoidant kind of personality style while we don't want to face certain things. As a two-line hermit, by design, I can understand that two-line shadow very well because the hermit line is naturally the first in the shadow frequencies to be in a state of denial, which is very hard with one to face unless you're really ready to go through a state of radical acceptance, which I go through all the time through the gates of struggle, right? Struggle gates 28, 38. So between struggle and fight, some of us really do have a hard time. Anyway, back to Gene Key 6. As human beings are unconsciously addicted to conflict, okay? This is where we go into behaving defensively, and likewise, our own defenses become a serious nervous matter. So when we unconsciously become addicted to conflict, we long for peace and globally for it, right? But our collective low frequencies ensure that we keep reinforcing the patterns of conflict. So the more that we actually want peace, the more that we actually try to strive for that, the more that the polarities of things are kind of giving us more of what we don't want. So we need to think about those things when we're moving through, you know, the universal laws of the law of attraction, you know. So when we talk about the conflict between the patterns, you know, the patterns of frequency that enforce these reinforcing patterns of conflict, the part is that where this is going to be seen is most is in our personal relationships. So the conflict between male or female, the conflict between male or female, general sub-programming, okay, those things that the feminine carry as part of the oldest wounds here are actually hot-wired into our genetics. So when we have this conflict, we're generally sub-programming ourselves to defend ourselves from the opposite sex. And we can't ever really know peace this way. So when the deep irony of the sixth shadow brings an end to the conflict, we have to give our attention to the opposite sex. Sex and war are deeply interrelated. So this is a profound and perhaps disturbing truth for many people, and especially so because there's nothing that we can really do about it. Human sexuality can only be transcended through physiological mutation, which is dependent on the content or the extent of your connection to the higher planes of reality. So when the sixth shadow is viewed at a social level, it dictates relationships between the differential race groups. And here the genetic defense reflex becomes truly dangerous, since we are sub-programmed to distrust other gene pools and cultures. It is the sixth shadow that first gave birth to the idea of national borders and boundaries. It's the sixth shadow that's responsible for war. War has been a byproduct of our genetic makeup for millennia. So, however, the sixth shadow is not as frightening as it sounds when viewed in evolutionary terms. It is an ancient part of our genetics, and it's been a necessary part of our evolution. It's ensured that racial diversity existed in the first place, allowing different gene pools to expand and thrive without too much inbreeding. Only relatively recently have all the gene pools begun to merge with each other, which suggests that the human race has arrived at a very important genetic axis point. And so the sixth shadow is about maintaining boundaries and borders. It's about who is included, who is excluded, and its entire base of defense. So the sixth shadow causes us to believe that we have to defend ourselves from danger. And we can see this at both an individual level and a national level. So from the observation of emotional defense strategies that are laid down during our second 7-year cycle, which is from the age of 7 to 14, okay, we navigate puberty, and this is an enormous amount of life energy that's actually tied up into this growth phase for every human being. And so this is where our life energy is tied up in protecting ourselves from the volatile emotional situations that we felt as children. So when we walk ourselves back through our own Venus sequence, which if you guys go to the Golden Path generator to generate your golden path charts, it will pull up your gene key chart. And when you see the red spheres in your gene key chart, the red spheres are your Venus sequence. And so in your Venus sequence, your SQ key is, the key that relates from birth to the age of 7. Your IQ key is from the age of 7 to 12. These are things that you would have already absorbed when you were young. Okay, but it's also a part of the grandest scale of your life's work. So if it ties into your childhood, then some of your greatest pains are also your greatest gifts in this sequence. And this is where we walk ourselves back through childhood to get to the vocation and the pearl sequence. The pearl sequence is where we have accumulated the essence and the understanding or the knowledge of the city that we carry. Okay, so we're always walked back through childhood. We're walked through childhood and then we're walked back through it in order to really come into the culmination of all of our essence, all of it. So this is what that talks about. So when we bring it into conflict through the irony of the shadow of the 6th gene key, when it comes to sex and war being deeply interrelated, the human sexuality can only transcend through physiological mutation, which is dependent on the higher planes of reality. So when we talk about this, the shadow is viewed at a social level and it dictates the relationship between different racial groups. So here we get into the dangerous aspect of the racial pools and the diversity between them, like the war between Palestine and Israel. That's one of the greatest examples that I could possibly give here. We've seen this so many times, right? So this is about maintaining boundaries, borders, the age of 7 to 14. This is where this particularly applies. This is also the shadow that causes us to believe how we have to defend ourselves from dangers, the dangers in the world, and how we see this on an individual and also a national level. So where we go into the ages of 17 or 7 to 14, as we navigate puberty, these enormous amounts of life force energy are tied up in protecting yourselves from the volatile nature of what's going on around you. This is where we start to in the root chakra, where we start to digest and absorb, all the things so far, of the shadow nature. These are the aspects where we start to lose touch of our intrinsic self-worth, with it, which by this time we're trying to find the value of our worth. We are now starting to question, whether we're worthy or unworthy. This is where a lot of the insecurities in a child or in us, from the age of 7 to 14, we actually start to build these insecurities. Okay, so this is where the shadow frequencies really, really start playing in the microcosms. This is where the shadow frequencies really start becoming present, in an individual. This is where we start, kind of going through those deep emotional things, and it starts to affect us in the repressive or reactive nature. Okay, so we'll get to that here in a second, but this shadow is about investing the majority of our energy in defense and how we do that. So when we start being told that, the nature of our happiness is wrong, or the nature of our being is wrong, and compared to other people trying to tell you what is right and wrong, there's lots that tie into that. When you carry your defenses through your adult life, it's because some form of your intrinsic self-worth or your value has been somewhat degraded from the root chakra, and it is affecting the sacral. Therefore, it affects our decisions of whether we are introvert or extrovert, or whether we work through these over-attentive natures between people. Sometimes people don't think about over-attention at the cost of what that might mean. So when we reason that we can't create peace or can't have peace, right about the age of 7 to 14 is when our natural peace starts to become more disrupted, right? we start to find those things that are the comfort zones. This is where we start to draw into those things. At an individual level, the peace in our relationships, the shadow makes it very hard for some of these open-hearted things that we are needing. It makes it hard for the shadow to be transcended. So however we see this, it's written into our human story that revolutions do occur, but in fact it's the biggest beginning that starts right now. So when we deal with the repressive nature of over-attentiveness, the repressive nature is concerned with maintaining peace between people regardless of the cost. So people aren't thinking about the costs of personal, fear. The pattern that's entirely based upon fear means that these people will actually totally compromise themselves in order to remain in control of their emotional environment. So a lot of people go through this, which this ties into the defense patterns, the over-attentiveness. This is where you develop the people-pleasing, the repressive nature that sweeps conflict under the carpet by adopting any behavior that will keep it at bay. So the problem here is that unless conflict is dealt with transparently, it tends to eventually explode. The over-attentive nature is at its core deeply false, which means that it will invoke unconscious distrust in others. So over-attentive natures also tend to draw tactless natures to them, resulting in some spectacularly dysfunctional relationships and family dynamics. So when these people finally develop the courage to face conflict, they realize that it's never as bad as they feared. So the reactive nature becomes tactless. So on the other side of the sixth shadow, it's unable to contain its emotions at all. So lack of emotional tact and timing betrays a low frequency nature that inevitably results in a backlash. These people are always finding themselves in deep emotional situations, which they can make worse by venting their anger, as well as projecting it onto others. So they're unable to take responsibility for their own volatile feelings. Their most common defense is to lash out and then storm away, which the dilemma of tactless nature is that it's death to its own tact. These people assume that the problem is always in the other person, which unfortunately earns them no friends and makes it very difficult for others to get close to them. The only kind of person who will remain with such a pattern is the over-attentive nature described above. So the secret to breaking this pattern is for reactive natures to take full responsibility for their emotions instead of remaining stuck in a teenager mentality. So now we get into the gift of where diplomacy comes in and dropping your defenses. So at a heightened frequency, the sixth gift pulls rapidly away from the world of conflict and argumentation. This is the gift of diplomacy. The ability to trust your own behavior to create a harmonious exchange with others. This gift is a byproduct of opening your heart to another person. So as you become clearer about your own emotional conditioning, you begin to feel more peaceful because this gift is so deeply connected to the pH balance of your physical body that it also has the effect of stabilizing the emotional aura in your environment. So in other words, when one is able to see their own unconscious projections, they actually rupture the collective shadow patterns wherever they go. So if one person's not playing the reactive blame game, then the other is forced to come into terms with his or her own demons. So you can see how the balance of pH in the body can further be understood through this gift. For a relationship to be healthy, there must be a balance of yin and yang, of receiving and giving, listening and expressing. Conflict ensues when this balance is lost. So the sixth gift has the effect of instantly applying the required amount of give and take in order to maintain peacefulness. As an example, if one person in a relationship becomes aggressive, the diplomatic countermeasure is to absorb the aggression and then pass the energy back without adding anything to it. This may be done in any number of ways, but tactful honesty is one of the most common. Honesty carries an extraordinary power and is one of the keys to diplomacy. Now, let me go back and mention here that we have in this particular gene key, you have the channel of fruitfulness, which contains the gate of gene key 6 and then the gate of gene key 59, which is the it goes from the shadow of dishonesty to the city of transparency. 59th gift is also the 59th gift is intimacy. So getting really intimate, you know, sometimes intimacy is really hard for people to maintain, not just with themselves, but with other people. Like to really step out of the gift of dishonesty in order to create true intimacy with others, you know, whether this doesn't just involve partners of the sexual nature. This involves every aspect of being candid and truthful and honest and transparent with other people. So when you talk about the 59th gene key or its gate, this is talking about the transcendence of hierarchy to headarchy and cleaning out the dirty fucking laundry, right? So if you go and, you know, kind of look at gene key 59 and gate 59 and how that operates with gate 6 here for the channel of fruitfulness, now you can understand how to overcome the victimization of this gene key. So we get to the aspects of attuning to the right timing when conflict ensues and balance is lost, the effect of instantly applying the right acquired amount of gift in order to maintain peacefulness is an example of a personal relationship. When it becomes too aggressive, the diplomatic countermeasure is to absorb the aggression and then pass the energy back without adding anything to it. So being honest in that very moment is the gift. That's always attuned to the right timing of how to act and what to say through the strong resonance field of the aura. So people can physically feel into another person's aura. This can be done because it's specific genetic gift and also because they're emotionally mature. So emotional maturity means that your awareness operates even during the most profound emotional states. So your awareness becomes more and more heightened at your own emotional patterns, and through the frequency passing through your emotional system, it's released and quickened. When you're operating out of the sixth gift, you can sense conflict in others before it even arises, you know, and also if you have a connection to that city of, if you have a connection to the 13th gene key, which is the city of empathy, you know, you can feel through the discord to use your discernment. So the gift in that is discernment at any time. And the ma tongue, the mother tongue, okay, Kali Ma here, talking about the mother tongue and the birth of origins, the origins of your birth, okay? This is also another meaning that the tongue is where you find discernment. That is also relation to the throat chakra. The gift of diplomacy is far more than the ability to speak the right words and temper your own actions, and the words disperse the conflict, to dissolve, dismantle the conflict before the Molotov cocktail gets thrown, right? So if you can sense that someone is brewing up a Molotov cocktail, then this is the perfect time to be able to use the gift of diplomacy to dismantle it with the truth, love, compassion, not violence and war, anger, insecurities, etc. It's about getting to the true heart of the nature, into the true heart of the solution without creating more problems in the meantime. Conflict does not end conflict. So there has to be a state of diplomacy here that is given to the situation. It is far more than speaking. Because of the shadow of the sixth shadow, there are tremendous friction between the opposite sexes, and both sides are so busy defending their individuality that there's little connection to real love. Because it's so embedded within human sexuality, it's about the penetration of borders and boundaries, and because of the sixth shadow, there's tremendous friction. So this friction is maintained only as long as each party hangs on to its defenses. Clear. as the sixth gifts enter the human relationships, the emotional barriers begin to break between people. And so the gift catalyzes the process of dissolving the natural friction between opposites, and in doing so, allows a far greater exchange of energy between them. This is exactly what the experience of falling in love is. So, you know, you can fall in love with a person and be so very into them, but then that pang of fear about giving them everything, about, that's when you first meet somebody and you first step into this amazing city, it starts to create that piece of conflict there. That's where the conflict starts. That's where your shadows start to submerge and emerge. That's when your insecurities start to come up, even if you think that they're all not there. Like, you could be perfectly great, but then when you get into that aspect of connecting with someone on a very deep level, it scares the absolute shit out of you. And this is where we struggle with vulnerability. This is where we struggle with the open heart chakra. This is where we struggle with our self-worth. This is where we struggle about, the past, the present, the future. This is where we struggle with intimacy. This is where we struggle with the closeness of each other, because now all of a sudden, you've got these energies that are now wanting to intertwine with each other, and now the fear strikes. When the fear strikes, this is when we start to have that battle of the sexes. Energies start to drive the seat of fear, right? Everybody experiences this, especially when you meet somebody that you're really, really into. You meet somebody that you're really, really, you just hit it off with that person, and you go through that honeymoon stage. But then when the honeymoon stage starts to bring in all kinds of different energies, and now you're navigating all of those things, you, the other person, the experiences that you're having together, this chemical equation of the codon ring of alchemy starts to really trigger the sixth gift. So it plays a role in the major transformations that we really go through. And when we have those emotional barriers to break, or when we have insecurities, or when we are still struggling in the shadows of the archetypes that run through every part of our design, from the design to the actual personality that we're operating. This is where the codon ring of alchemy is formed, and diplomacy, resolve, transmutation, imagination, respectfully, and the very powerful genetic grouping within the 64 keys. The sixth gift is about breaking down the barriers of human relationships and allowing the 40th gift to forge the new openness into community. So when the 47th gift is allowing us to transform our old ways, the 64th gift is opening us up to a fresh set of possibilities for living a new way. So at a collective level, therefore, every person manifesting the sixth gift is a participant in this deep alchemical process of gradually bringing peace to Earth. So these people realize how throttling defensiveness can be, both in individuals, cultures, and whole races. So as this gift enters the world in a more widespread manner, as indeed it must, we shall begin to see the dismantling of the many types of borders and barriers that keep people apart from each other. So for some of you guys that actually read tarot, and you guys have been pulling cards lately, if you guys have been getting that Six of Pentacles quite a bit lately, this G key would absolutely refer to the Six of Pentacles, the Six of Cups, the Six of Swords, and the Six of Wands. So, victory. So when we enter the sixth city, okay, we are building the body of glory. And so what this means is that the ultimate defense is emptiness. It's the essence of wisdom taught by the great sages. Defense maintains the illusion that we are separate. So as such, it is truly futile because it protects against something that doesn't really exist in the first place. So there's a famous story called The Empty Boat, told by the Chinese sage Shuang Su. One day, an old man was crossing a river in his boat. And sorry, Shuang or Wang, I am so trying not to botch your name. Okay. Anyway, one day, an old man was crossing a river in his boat when he mistakenly collided with another boat. The man in the second boat began shouting at the old man, cursing him. However, to the second man's dismay, the old man did not react in any way whatsoever, but just stared at him impassively. The old man was an enlightened being who had transcended all sense of his own individuality. For him, there was no one in his boat to be shouted at, so thus there was no one to defend, and there was no reaction within his being. The sixth city of peace is one of the truly great cities. It is the underlying nature of all the city. In point of fact, it's the underlying nature of form itself, once true essence has been realized in consciousness. The sixth city is the final result of the process that occurs in the sixth gift. The sixth gift is marked by a constant balancing of energies. In this sense, diplomacy requires a subtle effort, since it is juggling with the realms of duality. However, at a certain point, this process spontaneously gives way to the sixth city, and duality itself is transcended. You may say that whilst the sixth gene key or the sixth gift is actively the activity that maintains peacefulness, the sixth city is peace itself. Peace is the reality that is experienced once all boundaries have dissolved. It is a true nature of humanity. So many great teachers have spoken of the peace of the sixth city. So when Jesus stated that the kingdom of heaven has already arrived, but that people simply cannot see it, he is talking about this city. Peace is an auric emanation that surrounds anyone in a citic state. This citic state, the awareness within your being, separates from your emotional nature. It rises up and floats upon the vibrations of your emotional longing. This is a spontaneous process that cannot be caused by anything within your individuality, since it is that very individuality that has to die. So the underlying emotional energy that was previously experienced as longing is now experienced as peace. Awareness is no longer trapped within the vicissitudes of the emotional human drama. So in the deepest sense, something utterly wondrous happens inside of you. The final boundary, the boundary of your body, it dissolves. So when this occurs, it is no longer localized in the body. It's experienced as traveling in all forms. You realize that all of life is alive, and that even through the awareness within a form may dissolve as the form passes away. The consciousness behind this game of life and death always remains. And that is where the expression memento mori comes from. To remember death, okay? To remember death throughout the entirety of your existence here. It's to remind you that yes, you are going to die, but it also reminds you of memento vivere, remember to live. So those two expressions, memento mori and memento vivere, they go in hand in tangent with each other. And the meaning of that, when you remember that you're going to die, you must remember to live and to be in the very moment and to appreciate the fact that you're still here, you're alive, you're breathing, your essence is immortal, right? And in this aspect, you realize that between memento mori and memento vivere, that you're an immortal soul, but your time here is short. So in essence, remember to live while you remember to die, okay? So I love that expression so much that I actually put it in one of the card decks that I created called Memento Vivere, okay? So the sense of peace that emanates from the revelations are indescribable. So all your defenses disappear, your boat becomes empty. Paradoxically, at the same time, this very emptiness is flooded by the everythingness. Profound changes occur within your physical body during and after realization. Since your outer walls have dissolved, it's the process that is mirrored within your body chemistry and all inner conflict that comes to an end. It's through the cells within each of your bodies that make each other and your experience of the inner Garden of Eden. So this is why they say that on a cellular level, the kingdom of heaven is inside you and all around you, because it's activated in your blood cells. Through your own connection to Christ consciousness, or that lack thereof. So, you know, that right there in itself is that the Garden of Eden is actually the body. And so where people think that there is a real Garden of Eden, and there may be a real Garden of Eden, but what they're talking about in metaphoric terms is that Eden is the body. Eden is the body, the avatar, the garden. So, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? Well, it's what you feed it, right? For your own sense of digestion. So we can talk about digestion in human design later. I may actually do a particularly exclusive video about human design and human digestion and how that actually ties into the way that you absorb information, the way that you channel or process or digest information. And this not only relates to the digestion of information, but also your food and everything else to be digested, right? So there may be a body graph description video where we talk about, where your determination and where your determination actually comes in, because through your determination is how you digest things, okay? How you determine information. So the waves of peace that accompany this event, it travels deep into the collective consciousness of all humanity. To be in the physical presence of the sixth city is to bathe your body in its truth. To experience greater awareness than your own, traveling physically and emotionally through your body, because the current human form is not designed for these heightened states of being. Though, because the human current form is not designed for these heightened states of consciousness, some strange phenomena can occur within the body of some experiencing the city. So, this city is the original and future state of humanity. From it stems our myths, our memories of paradise, and our intuitions and the highest hopes for the future. So when this state draws and dawns inside you, your body begins to mutate. In a sense, it's trying to build a better vehicle to house this intense new frequency, but the raw materials are not fully yet present. Humankind is still evolving the new energetic circuitry that can carry these frequencies. So this is why they explain how when we get these solar flares, right, or whenever the planet is going through an upgrade, the sixth gene key is automatically activated for the upgrades, which means it will change your cellular structure. It doesn't matter whether you have this gene key in your sequence or not, or whether you are a programming partner to it. We all experience this effect when the sixth gene key is activated yearly, once a year, for the whole entire collective. The whole entire collective on the face of this planet feels this DNA activation, these changes within the DNA. Every human being is hit with the codon ring of alchemy, okay? Every time these gene keys are activated, we all feel them, we all experience them, and we all experience the shadow, the gift, and the city of their transmutations and why they're here and why they activate the codon mandala, okay? So for those of you guys that have actually followed my Facebook for a while, and those of you guys that have stayed along with me for my videos and my channeling and the activations this past year, for those of you that get this, I talk about how the fact that these codon revelation activations are really what drive the seeds of the Mandela effect, okay, and how we deal with that from 3D frequency to a 5D frequency. The codon mandala is responsible for the codon, well, for the, you know what I said anyway. The codon mandala is responsible for the Mandela effect that happens, okay? So we understand the codon ring of revelations more and how the Mandela effect takes place through understanding these gene keys and through understanding ourselves, right? Not only on an unconscious but subconscious level. This is what is aiding us and assisting us into creating the superconsciousness, right? So when we get into this codon ring of alchemy, the 47th city is of transfiguration. So when we talk about the sixth city, that has special quality here, and the key codes that are of the amino acid that drive interstellar clouds in deep space. Okay, so the suggestion is that this amino acid may play a key role in formation of the new life of the galaxy. So if you find that everything that we do experience outside of ourselves all has a connection to the alchemical table of elements, we need to pay really close attention to the table of elements, okay? Because a lot of the things that we put in our body have the same connection to the amino acids that we all function on in the genetic coding, in the codon genetics, right? So when this comes to the activations of the cities that manifest within here, like the ultimate boundary is our skin. So if one effect of the city can be mutation of the skin, then these mutations affect the way that the skin cells trap light. So the skin of someone manifesting this city can appear to actually be translucent. So if the 47th city is also involved in the process, an even more extraordinary phenomenon occurs: the transfiguration of the human body into what ancients called the rainbow body, or the body of glory. We talked about this in the rainbow body in these last few gene key activations. The codon ring of alchemy is really driving the seed of the rainbow body, okay, and its existence. The light system, the builder of this process, the sixth city, our cells become translucent. pH body is concerned with the spiritualization of the physical form, and it will gradually weaken the extremes of the pH scale, thereby by reducing the acidity or alkalinity of the body. As far as the pH of the body is concerned, the spiritualization of the physical form will gradually weaken the extremes of the pH scale, and so eventually all the solutions within the body will become neutralized. Hydrogen ions that form the very basis of the pH scale will evaporate, and the body will disappear altogether. So on a collective level, the sixth city will be the very last city to fully mutate in the completing shift of the global consciousness. Only when peace is recognized on Earth as the natural state of our collective consciousness can the future vehicle of humanity be built. In other words, the myth of world peace is the pretext for building the future body that will take us beyond form itself. So when people talk about true transcendence and transmutation and transfiguration, this is actually what it means. Eventually, the more you transmute and transfigure between a spiritual connection and the physical connection, and you release the attachments to the physical connection, the more you evolve to become a translucent being. This is exactly what they talk about in human ascension when we talk about Enoch, when we talk about Siddhartha, when we talk about Muhammad, when we talk about Yeshua or Jesus or Ben Joseph, okay? When we talk about these beings that have already gone through this transformation of Siddhic being within themselves, this is where they've actually unlocked the keys to be able to transcend this physical body without dying a physical death. That's what they mean. So when we talk about the path to peace and mutable aspects of life on Earth, this is exactly what they're talking about. This is how it happens. This is how the activations are set in motion. So, before I go, I'm just going to pull today's tarot card from the Tarot of Magical Correspondences. For those of you that are interested in this deck, let's get it. Okay, so they want the Nine of Swords. We have still in the energy from last week. We have the Great Work, talismans, crystal gazing, but this is about stable earth intelligence. The lotus, the cup, right? So here we have pure or clear intelligence, the vision of the machinery of the universe with the Nine of Swords. This deck is Tarot of Magical Correspondences by Eugene Vinitsky. His Etsy shop is called Tarot Mania, okay? And for those of you that actually like this deck, I'm not sure if he has this version still or if he has another printed version, but I know that there were only 1,200 decks printed in this version of the print, worth every bit of the $78, $80 that I paid for this deck and for the shipping to get from Switzerland to America. Yeah, very worth it. So the nines, let's talk about the nines, the Nine of Swords. The nines are contributed to the Hebrew alphabet letter of Yesod, okay, which means the foundation. Mystic numbers of the Sephiroth path is 45. And this represents pure or clear intelligence. The king scale color is indigo, and the practical attribution of Egyptian gods is the god Shu. Living beings, real or imaginary, elephant, tortoise, and toad. Plants, real and imaginary, are banyan, mandrake, damiana, ginseng, yohimba. The precious stones are quartz. Magical weapons, the perfumes and sandals, and the altar. The visible vegetable drugs are the orchid root. Magical powers is the vision of the machinery of the universe, and its transcendental morality is independence. Okay, so with the Nine of Swords, this card is about despair and cruelty. Now this talks, and now I can understand why they threw the Nine of Swords out at us, because they made me, after just shuffling a couple times, like my finger flipped over the very first card, so this was it. Now I can see why they would throw up the vision of the machinery of the universe here for pure and clear intelligence to the backdrop of this Jinki 6, and the fact that men and women, this is a battle of the sexes. This is where we need to overcome this in the psyche, in the mind, right? I finally see somebody's watching. Welcome in. Welcome in. So when we talk about the Nine of Swords, about the feeling of despair and cruelty between the battle of the sexes, and it ties into air, cardinal air, right? Left upper point, justice, returning ourselves from despair, cruelty, ruthlessness, and suffering, need, failure, loss, misfortune, burden, pressure, labor, skillfulness, and dexterity. This is also lies and deceit and slander. So a lot of this happens within the war zones between the sexes, right? But it's also so deeply embedded in humanity that it's not only a battle between the sexes, it's a battle between race, religion, and culture. You know, how do we overcome this? The paradox of the repressive and the reactive natures. We overcome it there, right? So we turn ourselves back to diplomacy every time. Diplomacy is how we return to the city of peace. We use the gift of diplomacy to overcome the shadow of conflict, right? But also we're also dealing with the shadow of turbulence, the shadow of conflict, all at the same time. So how do we go about this? Transfiguring the shadow energy into the state of diplomacy and gift of diplomacy toward the gift of just being human, the gift of humanity. So when we try to use diplomacy for the gift of being human, then we can transcend that energy into a state of peace and compassion, which is very needed in order to overcome the victimizations of our own emotions. It is through the gift of diplomacy and humanity that we return back to a state of peace and compassion. So for those of you that are in hangman mode about the Nine of Swords energy here and transmuting this energy this week, this is about the pure and clear intelligence of the machinery of the universe, and also how it ties into the great work. So in overall energy, you have the hangman here, and the stable intelligence through the arcanum, the major arcanum, that is actually here with us, to see the vision of splendor in absolute and perfect intelligence. This is the transmutation of the Eight of Cups. So with that being said, guys, there's our tarot cards for the day. We have the Nine of Swords, and we have in the overall energy the Hanged Man. So again, if you guys like this deck, you can purchase it on Tarot Mania Etsy shop with Eugene Vinitsky. He also has so many other decks in creation and available to you guys, and they're all amazing, I just have to say. But this is for any learner, any new beginner learning to learn how to read the Torah or understand or understand the royal path and its magical correspondences and all of its correspondence. I would recommend this deck for any new beginner or any master who already knows and is well versed in tarot. So this is a deck that I recommend to teach with or learn from in its most pure form, with all of the information and all the magical correspondences to tarot, the arcanum, the universal laws, and the mechanics of the universe behind all of them. So this is a great deck to not only learn from, but to teach from. So anyway, before I get out of here and I end this video, guys, I'm going to give you guys one oracle. I like to pull oracles from the Alana Fairchild's Kalima or Kali Oracle. I love being able to just give an oracle message at the end, because 9 times out of 10 when we talk about the codon rings of revelation, this ring we're in the I Ching, we're in the I Ching of Gene Key 6, which the hexagram 6 is called conflict. So this relates to heaven over water, or ether over water. So when spirit over water, heaven over water in the codon ring of alchemy. If you guys want to know more about the elemental table that is activated right now with the ether, heaven, or water, you guys can go search out hexagram 6, which would tie the I Ching into this. When it talks about the I Ching, this is about the sun shining on the roaring water, okay? So when we talk about conflict, sun shines on roaring water, this is about the right timing of creative energy to communicate with love. Peace is the beauty of devotion. Diplomacy is the fresh commitment, and conflict is the entropy of half-heartedness. Well, we talked about half-heartedness, the shadow of half-heartedness in Gene Key 29 several weeks ago. So when this talks about, despite sincere motivations, one still needs to meet with the opposition and obstruction to maintain an apprehensive caution. So to prosecute the contention to the bitter end will produce results. So when we talk about creating communication and contention to the bitter end, so eliminating the need to repress the throat chakra. When it comes to integral human design, this is about the streaming of relationships from harmony, the gift of a relationship, and the shadow of isolation. So over isolating when we're yearning for something, yearning and isolation are really tying into the channel of fruitfulness here. So you have gate 6 and gate 59 in the channel of mating. Okay, so when you have defense, the shadow of defense, the gift of fruitfulness, and the city of fusion, you're streaming through the relationship aspects of isolation, the shadow, clearing it, gifting yourself through your connections and your relationships to connect to the city of harmony between them. So this is about serenity, compassion, and harmony. But to get there, you have to feel through the yearning and release yourself from the shadow of isolation, expressing your needs and your feelings deeply throughout the experience of your relationships, and being able to ask for what you need and to state to the other person, hey, this is what I need. This is the way that your emotional aspects within the solar plexus are really driving the seat of your soul to express your needs. Because when you express your needs and allow yourself to be vulnerable and you open up the heart chakra, when you express your needs and you allow the gift of fruitfulness between you and another channel, expressing what you need and allows the gift of compassion to come in and hold you, right? So when we talk about the integral aspects of the human design, we are going to tie in and let's talk about the dream arc codex that ties into this. So when we talk about the crystal grid, the crystal alphabet mineral for this gene key is selenite. So the fear key in the underworld is squid. So when you're tying into the animal kingdom, these animals or crystals represent each gene key and its revelation activation. So when we have the fear key here, it brings up the squid in the shadow frequency. And when we have the life animal key, it brings up the hedgehog. The hedgehog would represent the gift here. So the vision key or bird, if you guys are seeing doves anywhere, that's the representation or the embodiment of the city here on this planet. So yes, all crystals are activated through the codon mandala onto the crystal grid. That's how the mandala effect affects things, because it sways the nature of our decisions and the way that we choose to operate through the shadows, the gift, and the city of each essence that ties into our sacred geometry. So when I talk about these things, if you guys see these different animals, or or if selenite gets brought up, these are activation tools that we can use, right, to help us transcend or to help us integrate each key. So yes, the animal kingdom does tie in between the fear key, the life key, and the vision key. So here is where the elements and all other aspects of life tie in here. So let's look at the archetype. Just really quick, I'm going to share the archetype with you. If you go to unlockyourdesign.com, type in door 6, human design, and my apologies for all of the outside noise. I guess my neighbors are moving, so now they have movers and a moving truck outside. I just thought I was going to get to have the peace and quiet that I needed to channel this video activation for you guys, because it is the last day, and as of midnight tonight we will go into a new codon ring revelation activation, and I will share that with you guys. I'll be on here again live in another few days to talk about the next gene key activation. But since we're in the last day and I've been having some troubles on Facebook, I needed to get this video out to you guys. So here we have the art with gene key 6. We have the archetype of door 6, which is the peacemaker. This is where we get through discrimination, the shadow of discrimination. This is where we get to diplomacy, which does represent conflict resolution, and the city of peace, which is actual balance. So when the peacemaker cultivates an internal equanimity, emotional awareness, and into life, she can dissolve barriers to peace and know precisely when it's time to act and speak transparently from her heart. The peacemaker naturally brings emotional maturity to every situation, knowing that many things in life are emotionally driven and not rational. So people feel her wisdom, strength, and vulnerability, and therefore open up to her. Her presence has the power to shift energy and move everyone present into calmness and harmony. The peacemaker can sense conflict in others before it even arises. She clearly sees her own and others' weaknesses without judging, and this enables her to temper her own actions and words to disperse the conflict. Standing as a set of scales, balancing both high emotions in one hand and a clear resolution in the other, she finds solutions by meeting people halfway, seeking a win-win, and settling each situation creatively with a sense of justice. The peacemaker knows that for growth, there has to be a certain amount of friction. She radiates a powerful energy that can break into people's energy fields, creating friction when she steps into their aura. And this creates electromagnetics, which are emotional and energetic, not seductive. As the gatekeeper of the flood of emotions through the solar plexus, she resolves the imbalance, and thus resonance is reached. The energy opens, and intimacy can be established. So physically, the conflict resolution regulates the pH in our bodies, representing the fine balance between acid and alkaline. 111. Sorry, I'm seeing that on a timestamp here. Our intimate relationships, the peacemaker creates and maintains the boundary between what is inside and what's outside and what's inside the body. She determines who to be intimate with, when, and the bonding roles that will be played out. Peacemaker has built a beautiful relationship with Playmate 59. Playmate was ready for an intimate connection from the moment they met. He had to wait patiently till the peacemaker was ready to invite him into all areas of her life. So the peacemaker flourishes through her relationship with the Playmate, and her transparency and ability to constantly balance opposites makes her a wonderful partner. With a brave heart, she encourages a balance of yin and yang, and receiving and giving, listening and expressing. So the Playmate, is 59. So that is why gate 59 is in the channel of fruitfulness for you guys, because it brings together 6 and 59, the channel of mating. So with a brave heart, she encourages a balance of yin and yang, and the peacemaker previously learned a lot from her intense and many times unbalanced relationship with the storm, 36. In the past, they were lovers and had a roller coaster relationship with strong attraction, huge differences, and many highs and lows. So together they learned to acknowledge and embrace emotional turbulence with compassion. They even had to accept that pleasure and pain always come together. They gathered wisdom from their emotional and sexual connection that included intensity, newness, crisis, and rebirth. But as a part of their relating, the peacemaker and the storm had to start parenting their inner child and allowing the emotional pain instead of projecting it outward. When they eventually healed toward their relationship, naturally dissolved, even if their intimate relationships did not last forever, they had the courage to jump into the experience and live it fully. That's how they turned their emotional shadows into emotional maturity. So even if you don't have like a partner that carries the 36 gene key, and you do have the 6 gene key, it is through the programming. It's through the programming that you can allow the emotional maturity to come in. So if there is an issue that you need to allow yourself more emotional mature growth in, definitely activate that. Set your intentions, and then you'll wind up walking down that journey in order to do exactly what you set out to do. So if there's some place that you would love to see an area of your own mature, growth happen, by all means, it's the perfect time to activate that intention to manifest inside you and all around you. sharing. Oh my word. Come over here, just shuffling all weird. Okay, so anyways, so this is how you can turn your shadows into, you know, the emotional mature aspects of your gifts. So this is for anybody. This is how the 6th gene key and its archetype can help anyone. Okay? This isn't just for somebody with the 6th gene key. This can help anyone, everyone on the Codon Pendula. So the peacemaker has learned to discriminate emotionally and sexually and does not jump into any relationship prematurely. And that even means we don't respond from our own human design theme or response without having some clarity on how to respond. Some of us have to wait to respond. Some of us, it's in our nature to respond, but we need to figure out how not to respond from the frustration things. So when we're all, this is for everyone, when we're able to let down our guard and open our heart completely, the phenomenal miracles that can actually happen to tap into your inner peace, it kind of helps open the doorways. That's why they call this a key, right? Because you have the key. All you have to do is open the door, let down your defenses, let down your guard, and open your heart. That's the only thing that this gene key asks you to do. So if you have this archetype in your archetypal alliance, and when I say archetypal alliance, I mean the royal path, tarot, okay? So in order to walk through the royal path, through your gene keys, and through the fact that you are stars, you're made up of stars. It's literal, like the language of the stars, the mother tongue of your birth is your natal chart. And it's written in the mother tongue. The mother tongue is the tongue of the stars and the birth of your origins, for those of you that didn't know. So if you guys want to tap into your inner peace this week, sit with hexagram 6, gene key 6, the door 6, and allow the peacemaker archetype to just sit with you. If you can sense conflict in others before it arises, this is the perfect opportunity to tap into the gift of diplomacy and allow yourself to be able to temper actions and or words to be able to disperse the conflict. And to be honest, this is the true meaning of temperance. If you guys do follow our, archetypal roles within the major arcana of tarot, and if you guys are tarot readers or you do read cards in this manner, this does represent the temperance card. So if you need to sit with the temperance card to tap into the archetype of the peacemaker, this is for anyone, okay? This is for anyone. Okay, so just with that being said, we've talked about the archetype, we've talked about the gene key, we've talked a little bit about the hexagram, and so that's what's been going on for the last 6 days, guys. All right. So what is the message from Kali Ma? How does that tie in? What is Kali Oracle in reference to what phase of Kali are we in right now with the 6th gene key? What phase of Kali are we in right now with the 6th gene key? What message does Kali have for us as the peacemaker? Kali, what message do you have to go hand in hand with the archetype of the peacemaker today? If you guys don't mind, please, if you feel like this video has helped you, if you feel like any of the messages here have helped you or can help someone else, please share this out. I don't ask you to like or subscribe to my channel. I will never ask you to do that. For me, I want my magnetism to allow you to make that decision for yourself, okay? But if you feel like the messages in this video for this week's codon activation can help someone or someone else, please share this out. Copy, link, paste, and copy and paste it anywhere. Send it to anyone, anywhere. That's all I ask. Kali Ma, how can we reflect, okay, over the last 6 days of this beautiful activation with the Peacemaker? How can we allow the Peacemaker as an archetype to help us all? All right. First of all, we got 2 cards, 3 cards, considering the overall energy. We do have the Anahata Kali card. This is all about the heart chakra. And I'm gonna read the overcall. I'm gonna read the overall energy first. I'm just gonna give you guys just a beautiful, powerful mother of the sacred universal heart who lives within our hearts as the wisdom, healing power of love. Your heart knows how to heal and how to open, how to break, and how to repair itself. To become stronger and wiser than before, your heart cannot be contained or constrained by what has taken place. Your heart wisdom and empowerment are growing. Soon, you shall have all the wisdom and the courage to accomplish something very important for your soul journey. So trust in the invisible workings of divine love and let your heart be at peace. So the journey of the soul is the journey of the head to the heart. The Anahata is the Sanskrit name for the heart chakra. Anahata Kali is the goddess who secures the awakening, transformation, and liberation of the heart. Love is her expression. When Kali Ma touches the heart, it's giving me chills, guys. Love is her expression, so when Kali Ma touches the heart, it becomes capable of love that is so increasingly unconditional that it becomes fearless and compassionate. Such empowerments often manifest through loss and betrayal. In responding to such challenges, we grow our heart's capacity for love, processing and healing emotions of grief, betrayal, and anger. Our heart becomes stronger through the process. This human heart is capable of overcoming enormous negativity. It's an astonishingly powerful, beautiful temple of the spirit. We can underestimate the extraordinary power of the heart by focusing on its sweetness, love, and light, though they were weaker than anger, fear, or the consuming intensity of grief. We can allow to begin to understand the spiritual worlds, and how they operate when we let go of the human perspective. A human believes that the heavier and denser something is, that the more powerful it is. A heavy emotion like anger or physical situations that appear gridlocked are even more weight than the intangible realms of spirit. So, yet, spirit is behind all things, and all things, being invisible, does not impede its effectiveness. If anything, it enhances it. So, for something so seemingly invisible, love has unconquerable power. We affirm this in expressions such as love can move mountains, or love will always find a way. That it will. Alright, so we have 2 messages mainly for you guys. This one was about opening up the heart chakra. This is what's being done right now. It's opening our heart, our Anahata center. But the messages that we have today are for 2 reasons. We have one aspect of Kali Ma, which is Shamunda. Okay. Shamunda. Okay, let's talk about Shamunda first. She is the yogini. Shamunda is the yogini of extremity. Okay, so her unerring instinct for spiritual protection arises spontaneously even when we do not realize we need it. Sometimes we don't realize just how far we've become entangled in that which is not good for us. We do not realize that we need Kali's powerful intervention and knowing what to allow and what to fight for or against. Okay, this is where we use our tongue, our mother tongue of discernment right now. Okay, because we're still moving in that energy of the shadow right now of Jinki 6. Conflict. So when we have conflict, this is why Shamunda's here. Knowing what to allow and what to fight for or against requires wisdom, so holding the space for an inner or outer conflict may be resolved. It involves discipline. Shamunda is the fearlessness of wisdom, patience, and discipline needed to conquer a difficult situation. She is with you now. Wild Black Shamunda is a ferocious warrior goddess. She takes her name from Shanda and Munda, two great demons whom she defeated. Thus her name is a symbol of gaining power. Her presence indicates that you shall not only overcome an obstacle, but gain complete mastery over the energies that gave rise to it. You shall never be troubled by it again. Swathed in blood, red light, representing her life force and power, Shamunda has multiple arms, which indicate her divine activity. The skull and crescent moon resting atop a funeral pyre from her crown, symbolizing her status as a goddess of death and karmic retribution. She is protective. Her three deeply socketed eyes are so intense that they are said to burn away the evil in all worlds and all dimensions. She provides protection and from destructiveness, including gossip and other kinds of black magic, which not unlike gossiping, uses intention, words, and actions to work against another's well-being. So when we're talking about black magic, right, or demonic entities. So this is the aspect of Shamunda that she severs the heads off of that energy. She is here to destroy the evil. And so we talk about the mother goddess in this aspect of her as a mantrika. She is the only one that is worshipped independently and the only one that is not connected to a masculine consort. Shamunda. Shamunda's been popping up for me for the last couple of weeks, y'all. During my daily mantras, okay, I am a practicing Sadaka of the Siddhanath lineage, and during the last 40 or 35 days, because today is 35, during the last 35 days of Purusharan, these last 2 weeks, Shamunda has been very, very prominent in the energy during my mantras and during my mala counts. So when I ask, Shamunda, why you here? She says, well, I'm here to help you sever the head off of this shit, that you're dealing with. So she's here for protection. So whether she is expressed particularly upset, okay, so when her consciousness comes into long light, when she is worshipped independently, is not connected to a masculine consort, she represents the independent, fierce, and unique emanation of the wild feminine power of Devi, the great divine goddess. She's an expression of Kali, referred to interchangeably with Kali Ma in the Puranas, ancient Hindu texts that date back more than 2,000 years. The Matrikas express a consciousness that is potentially protective and destructive depending on your own actions. So whether you choose diplomacy in these situations, right? This is why Shamunda's here. She's saying, you have all you need inside of you to resolve this conflict. So it's a matter of choice, to choose diplomacy or to choose the same energy that is being thrown at you. So you can choose diplomacy or you can choose conflict. So there's that. The Mantrikas are fierce. Shamunda in particular will retaliate against toxic masculinity. Whether expressed by a male or female human, the masculine energy can be healthy or toxic. So when it is healthy, it's strong, creative, protective, generative. When it's toxic, it's exploitive, dominating, and damaging, and seeking progress at any cost. So that means when the masculine energy is in a negative, toxic state, seeking diplomacy at any cost, that doesn't mean manipulating people to get what you want, right? Or acting out in like a sort of misogynistic nature. That's dark masculine energy. So when we get this energy that becomes domineering or damaging and to seek progress at any cost, meaning, if you need to seek progress knowing that it's going to cost you or cost someone else, it's not worth it, right? It's trying to tell you that that's not how you go about things. That's not how you value the time you have here. So Shamunda is worshipped as the ruler of sacred erection. So fertility, the seeding of masculine energy is needed. But when the feminine has been desecrated in any way, shape, or form, she will not hesitate to retaliate with fierce compassion. Which form, from our human perspective, may seem like chaos, yet the phallus is also a symbol of her honoring the potential power and creativity of healthy masculine energy, facilitating its safe development within the human psyche. So despite the inherent drama or intensity that we may be experiencing through turbulence and conflict right now, it's about the diplomacy of humanity and the gift within it. Beloved, Shamunda is the essence of the heroic heart. She assists us when we need to find the strength to overcome our physiological limitations or inertia to access, integrate, and sustain higher frequency states of being. And so bringing about a permanent structural change of the psyche is hard work. So yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, psychotherapy is not easy, but psychotherapy is necessary, especially when you are getting upgrades, okay, and you're needing the psychological processing necessary to process and integrate these expansions or this knowledge or this information or this feeling that is taking place inside of you through the spirit of transformation, right? So when the matrikas express a consciousness that's potentially protective and destructive, depending on our actions here, this is profoundly disruptive, and rather than the positive destructive power of Kali Ma, the unchecked demonic destructiveness of greed. The matrikas are fierce, and Shamunda in particular will retaliate against toxic masculinity, causing havoc in the lives of those who live by such values. Shamunda is worshipped as the ruler of the sacred erection, so this is the power of masculine energy. She has the power over masculine energy also. So when the feminine has been desecrated in any way, she will not hesitate to retaliate with fierce compassion, from which our human perspective may seem like chaos. It's going down. Despite her inherent drama and intensity, Shamunda is beloved by the heroic heart. She assists us when we need to find the strength to overcome physiological limitations and inertia, to integrate and sustain higher frequency states of being. So, however, bullying ourselves into being different or applying more and more willpower only tends to create resistance, adverse reactions, and exhaustion. So even if this is not going on outside of the self, this is what is going on internally. So as within, so out. This is how we transmute through alchemy. This is how we transcend through one stage of alchemy to another. Acceptance. So however, bullying ourselves, that's not going to get us anywhere. So now this is where self-love, self-care, self-talk, radical acceptance is absolutely necessary at this point for holding space between divine feminines and divine masculines and the collective of energy. So mastering this balance to nudge ourselves forward on our path and facilitate change, but not just change, compassion. Compassion. You're welcome. Shamunda is the power to accomplish anything that we're being nudged toward right now. She is a portent of truly exceptional breakthrough on the path and a healing of masculine energy and the protection of sacred feminine within your own heart. So, when you visualize that you are being held by this beautiful energy, even in the darkest of night, and you allow the warm red glow and otherwise inky black sky to feel a connection to your heart space and open up that Anahata chakra. Anahata. Sit, rest, absorb, allow the digestion of this energy with Shamunda to become the yogini of your heart, So, to the yogini of extremity, Shamunda Kali Ma, we bow to your wisdom, your protection, and your love. Om Kali. You who are the dark mother and queen of the wild feminine, we recognize your ferocious devotion when it arises as needed. We recognize to gain release from false structures and renewal of life force, we humbly return to the source of mother wisdom, to the mother tongue. And we seek refuge in you. May we mature and develop spiritually to become a true, faithful, and effective devotee of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine in divine relationship for the spiritual benefit of all beings. Jai Ma Kali. Jai Ma. So, with that message, we also have the message together with Mantra Shakti. And so between Shamunda and Mantra Shakti, these are the two energies that are really here with us. There's three. There's a triple energy here with us today. So we have Anahata Kali, Mantra Shakti, and Shamunda. Okay? And I would sit with different aspects of each one of these archetypes because they're going to correlate to this message, these activations, this transformation, these integrations through the Kodan Mandala activations that we're all receiving the messages of divine wisdom from. So, Mantra Shakti. So, like when I say like through the mantras are very powerful. Mantras are very powerful seeding tools from the throat chakra to help balance and alignment through the sound, through sound. Okay. So, Mantra Shakti, her voice creates and dissolves universes. Her vibration within our souls create our life path. You have a sacred power of voice. How shall you express it? To call for effective divine assistance in all ways? Question mark. Do not allow negative thought or speech to undermine your inner spiritual connection. Claim your voice and your power to create. Listen for inner guidance and then set your course in motion. Though it may not yet be visible in your physical world, a new order is generating within the soul. In time, it shall manifest in transformed physical circumstances. The power of the word, seed, mantra, letters, as a creative force has been acknowledged through the scriptures of multiple spiritual traditions, from Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam to the New Age and more. Word is vibration. So in the spirit of diplomacy, choose your words wisely. In taking form, it creates new and vastly improved circumstances on all levels of our being. The sound of a beautiful voice can draw us closer, and the shrill sound of something harsh repels us. Sound can bring harmony from chaos and create beautiful patterns for manifestations that are healing and enhancing life. It can disrupt and break apart which has been built. Sound is powerful. This oracle indicates that we have the power of voice at our disposal. We have the power to seek truth, set ourselves free, to choose what we say and how we say it. Your voice has the potential to profoundly affect your reality, and this is not about controlling others. It's about claiming your power of choice and voice. It feels overpowering and profoundly healing to work with mantra. The very act of using the voice with intention brings about change. It reconnects us to our divine empowerment, innate creative ability where we were granted along with our voice. It's the opposite of victimization, despair, and doubt. It is a connection with the sacred power and higher consciousness directed with willpower. That's beautiful. I love this. It's a refusal to be silenced or subjected to an unconscious fate. It's the claiming of voice to co-create and inspired. Deeply guided and fulfilling divine destiny, it's taking the reins and sacred surrender into great divine wisdom. Mantra is a pathway of connection to the higher self and the ancient ones of divine wisdom that continually watch over and guide humanity's spiritual evolution. So the sounds of Sanskrit mantra are said to have been shared by ancient rishis or sages who handed teachings from the higher spiritual planes down to humanity. They did so to help humans deal with the challenges they foresaw. So as relevant today, they must have been thousands of years old, or thousands of years ago. These are mantras for different purposes, and the simplest mantras can be very powerful. These are the sounds, or baijas, which are single syllable mantras that evoke certain realities, including the realities of realms of various deities. The Kali Bija is cream. It sounds like cream. Cream is a sound for invoking the Shakti, the power and activity of Kali Ma in our lives. It generates a powerful inner spiritual current, propelling the sound toward awakening. It breaks cycles of bondage. It aligns with our will to hers. Om Cream Cream Shreem Om. It breaks cycles of bondage, aligns our will with hers, allowing Divine Mother to direct us from within. Like Kali Ma, this mantra is fierce and powerful and protective and bestowing of blessings. If you're facing negativity, challenge, or feel deeply guided to connect with the loving presence of Kali Ma, this mantra is a powerful shield of protection. However, like working with Kali, working with her mantra is not for the faint-hearted. When we set a boundary, it's natural that there will be a time when others attempt to cross it. We do not need to feel fearful of this, but rather be wise to it. The spiritual path is not something we walk occasionally. It's a way of being. That is a relationship to the divine. We understand that there will be times we need to call upon the protection of that relationship more so than others. It's not a burden to the divine, but a beautiful opportunity for us to realize just how loved we really are. Call upon the divine, we are always answered. The message of the oracle is that you have divine birthright to choose how to deal with negativity. Allow others the choice to behave as they wish, with respect that each path is unique. We cannot know how others need to learn and grow in their life journey. However, this is not an excuse to allow for negativity to infiltrate your being and underestimate your spiritual relationship with yourself. The world, the oracle brings a message from the Divine Mother. If you have a need of something, ask for it. Use your voice in a way that helps you, empowers the divine to help you too. So wiggle around, release the tension from your body. Feel your sense of grounding and connection to the earth beneath you and your body, and press your feet to the floor. Connect to your body, your flow of breath. Beloved Kali Ma Devi, I call upon the light. Cream! I call upon your true nature. Cream! May the light bring peace, and may your true nature bring freedom. May there be perfect balance between calming and liberating forces. I lay my claim to the creative divine power within me and choose to align myself with the divine feminine power that protects, nurtures, and liberates all beings with perfect wisdom. I trust in you. I say your mantra for the spiritual benefit of all beings. Cream, cream, Jai Ma Kali. Oh. Thank you guys for joining me today for today's activation. At the end, we're at 1 hour and 42 minutes and 53 seconds, and you can't make this shit up. Between the codon activations, the messages from Kali Ma, and the tarot, this has been your weekly codon revelation update. I love you guys so much. Join me in another day or three for the next codon mandala activation. Let me see which one's going to happen next. Just so you guys can get a beeline on what is going to be going down tomorrow, just really quickly. Codon mandala. So, GP6. Activations. Tomorrow, you guys will be stepping into. Tomorrow, you guys will be stepping into. Hold on, let me put this up. kind of not what I wanted. Hold on. So the code on Meta will also pull up all the I Ching, also the 64 I Ching. All right, that's the one I want. Sorry. All right, so tomorrow, Gene Key 47 will be activated. Actually, let me see. Jinky 46. Oh, Jinky 46. My vocation key. The shadow of seriousness. The city of ecstasy and the gift of delight. So, this is going to be fun. So, stay tuned. Come back to my YouTube channel in another day or few. Thank you so much. And thank you, Facebook, for giving me a reason to reactivate my YouTube channel. I have missed you all so very much. But it is time for some serious changes. I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to embark on this journey with me. So I just wanted to extend my love, my gratitude. Thank you all for watching, sharing, and to anyone that is just catching the replay, please, I welcome your comments. Thank you so much. And also, if you could, let me know how this helps you. Until next time, it's your friendly neighborhood pain in the ass and divine blueprint channel, Mojo. I love you guys so much. How do I end this thing? Sorry.